Now, let's talk about the special education situation. Special education was created by the United States Congress in 1975. Why was special ed created? I hope my parents are listening. I hope my education majors are listening. I hope my law, pre-law students are listening. My sociology and psychology students are listening. Why was special education created? To help kids who were struggling? Hell no. Special education was created to give white folk the prerogative to resegregate black children from white children. I'm going to say it again. Special education was created to give Lower Marion School District and Upper Marion School District and Plymouth Meeting School District and all these other all-white school districts the prerogative to take black children out of the class with white kids and subject them to a separate education. That's what special ed is all about. Let me go a little bit more specific with y'all. In 1954, the United States Supreme Court said you could no longer use race as a function in public education. Everybody knows about that case, right? The Brown versus Board of Education decision, 1954. Charles Hamilton Houston, Thurgood Marshall sued and won in court proving that giving black children separate educational accommodations was an infringement upon their 14th Amendment rights. Okay? So the Supreme Court said you can't use race. Up until 1975, if you was black, they said you can't come to this school. And that's why up until the 70s, a lot of us was educated. Our grandparents and parents were educated in separate facilities. We had all black schoolhouses. So in 1975, the Supreme Court said, you can't do that no more. But did the white school districts of America listen to them? Hell no. The schools remained segregated. 1964 is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s Civil Rights Bill. Once again, Congress says what? You can't discriminate based on race. This is 10 years after 54. Now we're talking the Civil Rights Bill, 64. Guess what? The schools remained separate and racially divided. 10 more years, my birth year, 1974. Half the schools in America are still racially divided. But there's a problem now because America's in Vietnam. And America's trying to tell people in other countries how to treat their citizens right, while they don't even treat their own right. So in the halls of Congress, they jumped up and said, we got to do something about this. 20 years after the Supreme Court said you can't separate based on race, we still got black children going to predominantly and exclusively all black schools. This is making us look like a hypocrite in Vietnam, Russia, other places. So they said we got to come up with something. What can we do? We need a strategy to do what? Legally allow for separate but equal to keep on going. But at the same time, force the white school districts of America to let black children in. And that's when they came up with special ed. Stay with me. Special ed said you can't separate them because they're black. You cannot say, I'm putting them in a special class because they're black. You cannot do that. It's illegal. But what we're going to give you is a label called the learning disability. And if you say they're learning disabled, you can take them out the class and put them in a special class. We're going to give you another label, emotional disturbance. If you say he's emotionally disturbed, you can take him out the regular class and put him in a special class. Let me give you another label, mild mental retardation. If you call him retarded, you can take him out the regular class and put him in another class. All they did was codify the racism with labels. And what are the biggest labels in special ed? Number one, learning disability. The learning disability is the most diagnosed special ed condition in America. Number two, mild mental retardation. A black boy in America is 4 times as likely as a white boy to be called retarded, even when he's not. I was on the phone yesterday with a parent from Alabama. Check this out. This was yesterday on the phone from Alabama. The boy was classified as mentally retarded in preschool, 4 years old. Stay with me. Special ed requires that you get reevaluated every 3 years. So he got another eval when he started kindergarten. The next year, he was kindergarten. 3rd grade, he got another eval. 6th grade, he got another eval. Ninth grade, he got another eval. Now he's in the 11th grade, and the parent is consulting with me. He's been considered retarded since he was 4, now he's 14. Check this out. I went over his paperwork with his mother. She faxed it to me, I went over it with her. And guess what I found? In none of these evals, he had 4 or 5 since 4, he's now 14. Retarded for 10 years, allegedly. Guess what, y'all? I looked at the IQ test that they use. They never even gave the boy a standard IQ test. With every eval, he got a brief IQ test. Let me explain to you what a brief IQ test is. That means I put your child in a room with a desk, and I spend 15 minutes with him. I spend 15 minutes with him. And based on 4 subtests that I administer in 15 minutes, I determined that the boy is retarded. That's how they determined that son was retarded. They didn't even have the decency of giving the boy the standard IQ battery. They rushed him in and rushed him out. And he's been walking around diagnosed as retarded in Alabama for 10 years. So now, mother contacts Dr. Umar Johnson. What's our plan of action? What's the first thing I got to do? I got to determine whether or not he's retarded at all. Because if that boy is not retarded, and I'm almost certain he's not. Why am I almost certain he's not? Because on one of those brief IQ tests that they did, he had an IQ score of an 84. That's low average. That is not deficient. That is not MR. So I'm already seeing evidence that the boy is not retarded. So the mother is going to request that the school district, and I want you parents to hear me, the mother is going to request that the school district give her son an independent educational evaluation. I need y'all parents to remember those words. Independent educational evaluation. Federal special ed law says if you don't agree with the evaluation that the school did for your child, you have a right to another one, and the school district must pay for it. Did every parent hear me just now? So I should never hear another parent say, they said my son was this or that, and I didn't know what to do about it. I just told you what to do about it. You write a letter to the principal. You diagnose my son as retarded. I don't agree with it. I'm requesting an independent educational evaluation. And when you request that, the school district gives you the freedom to find the psychologist that you want to use. Now, we're in Pennsylvania right now, right? I'm certified in Pennsylvania. That means what? That means if any of you ever need an independent educational evaluation, guess who you're going to request? Okay? But let me take that back. You ain't got to request me. You can go get Mr. White Man, but don't come back to me after you screw your child up. Anyway, okay? So first we got to determine if the boy is retarded or not. Now what's going to happen when we find out he's not retarded? Because I'm sure he's not. The school district in Alabama is going to owe this family compensatory ed from pre-K, 4 years old, all the way to 9th grade. He's going to get 10 years of back money for all the years that he should have been in the regular class but was in a special class. And then on top of that, we're going to sue the district for what? Psychological damage. Because this boy been walking around since the age of 4 believing he was retarded. And then, because the mother no longer has any faith in Alabama public schools to teach her son, they're going to pay for him to go to a private school for the rest of 11th grade and all of 12th grade. Are y'all following me? This is how you beat the system. Parents, you are the power. You are the power. But the problem is with some of them, with a lot of us, black parents, we trifling, we lazy, and we don't keep good documentation and records. Okay? When I worked with this mother on the phone the other day, she had all her paperwork in order. She faxed it to me every eval. I don't see that often. Most of the time, y'all might have one IEP, you might have one eval, you might have one suspension slip, you might have one this. That's not going to cut it. I cannot help you beat the system if you don't have your paperwork in order. I cannot help you beat the system if your child don't go to school on a regular basis. I cannot help you beat the system if your child doesn't do his homework or her homework. So let me get back to my point. They created the learning disability. They created the emotional disturbance. They created mild mental retardation. And then in 1990, they gave us a whole new group of labels. So since the 70s, we was dealing with what? Learning disabled, retarded, mild mental retardation. Learning disabled, emotionally disturbed, mild mental retardation. Learning disabled, emotionally disturbed, mild mental retardation. Then 1990 comes. The mass incarceration of black males gets kicked in. George Bush, the father, followed by Bill Clinton, the first black president. Okay? Bill Clinton started locking up black men by the gazoo. He said, if you get 3 felonies, we're going to put you in jail for the rest of your life. If we catch you selling drugs, you're going to get a mandatory minimum jail sentence. For the first time in American history, you can go to jail for life, having not been guilty of a violent crime. And that's how they swelled up the jails. And why did Clinton swell up the jails? Because one of Bill Clinton's campaign contributors was a private prison corporation out of Texas. He who pays the piper called the tune. So they started locking up black men by the thousands. Locking up black men by the thousands, leaving all our mothers at home to raise these boys on their own. And because we know that when the daddy's not there, mama, because the mother is what? You are the nurturer. The woman is the feminine principle. Your job is to nurture and love and care. Daddy's job is to protect and discipline and hold the line. So when daddy's not there, the discipline dips a little bit. But not only that, the son is a little unstable because he misses his father. So they came in with a whole new group of disorders. ADHD, conduct disorder, oppositional defiant disorder. These are the disorders of the 90s. Half the schools in Philadelphia, I go in there, half the boys in the classroom, ADHD. Half of them, conduct disorder. A third of them, oppositional defiant disorder. I could take you to certain schools in Philadelphia right now where nearly every boy in the school is on medication. If it ain't Ritalin, it's Adderall. If it ain't Adderall, it's Concerta. If it ain't Concerta, it's Metadate. If it ain't Metadate, it's Prozac. If it ain't Prozac, it's Paxil. If it ain't Paxil, it's Risperdal. If it ain't Risperdal, it's Depakote. And guess what? Parents, the drugs that they're giving your son is no different than the drug that got his father locked up. They're the same substance. Ritalin and crack are 1 molecule apart. It's the same substance. You don't believe me? Go to the library. I got a library on campus. Get online, do some research. Look up Drug Enforcement Agency classification of controlled substances, and you're going to see Ritalin in the same category with cocaine and opium. Now, the average crack addict can only afford to get high once a day. Your son got a prescription, Obamacare. He can get high 3 times a day.